Sahar. I am a black metal band from Malta. I write in our mother tongue, which is Maltese, and I've been doing this since 2006. I've released up to 13 releases, more or less.
Welcome to Musicography, Wizard. Can you tell us how you came up with the idea of creating an album like Digital News? What went through your mind at the time of thinking about starting the album?
Well, each album, each full length at least, tends to have a recurring theme, a common theme between all the tracks. And in this case, in this one, I decided that I would be writing about mass murders, massacres, genocides. That's why it's called Tijrif tal-Junus. Tijrif tal-Junus means civilization collapse. So I'm writing about what causes, or what could be described as the fall of a civilization, you know. And when I started writing it, lyrically speaking, I already had the music finished, but I already had the theme in mind. So by the time I was writing the lyrics, the music already had that certain anger in it, that certain wrathful sound, I suppose, or at least that's what I tried to achieve while doing it. So, yeah.
If Digital News was a journey, how do you think it would be for the people that listen to it? Which things will they find on their way?
If it was a journey, I would say it was quite an arduous journey, a difficult one, because researching the details which happened in such atrocities like the ones I mentioned in the album, it takes quite a toll on a person, or at least it took quite a toll on me. And I hope that whoever listens to this album, even if he does not understand the language, which probably he won't, I hope that he can appreciate it through the way I projected the sound in it. Maybe then he will appreciate that it was quite an arduous journey for me.
There isn't much black metal in Malta. However, the few bands that play it show a lot of quality. How does it feel for a musician to play a genre that isn't popular in your country?
I would say it's, in a way, a blessing and a curse, because, all right, we're a small country, so it's quite difficult to create a certain amount of bands here, you know, let alone metal bands, let alone black metal bands. So in a way, it means that I am not one of the many, you know, I stand out relatively. Unfortunately, that also means that since bands are created from an underlying culture, that means that there isn't that much people who actually listen to black metal, so my following, at least locally, is actually pretty poor.
After all your studio work, how do you see your project's evolution? If you had to pick a word to describe Sahar nowadays, which one would it be?
I would go with the word persistent, because just like any other band, I had ups and downs, pitfalls, difficulties, challenges on several levels, but I kept on going nonetheless. I kept on writing and, more importantly, publishing music all this time. So it's that will be the word I would use, persistent. The project doesn't really evolve in maybe other people do. I simply write music. If this album has 6 tracks or 8 tracks, that probably means I wrote 10 of them. 8 I kept in this album, 2 will be carried over in the next one, and 1 maybe or maybe not I keep. So the sound from this album will slightly carry over in the next one, but then I'll sprout the rest of the songs from the ones I wrote already. So it's a very natural evolution type of approach, which means that it could be gradual, it could be static. There could be albums which might sound the same, and there could be albums like I did in the past which sound radically different from one another. There isn't a long term target in what I do, I simply do.
Your songs are most of the time based on the dark arts or the black magic amongst others. What's the role of these arts in your life and in your music?
I write about the dark arts, yes, that is true, but that's where it starts and ends really. I use it as a vector for my sound, my lyrics, my aesthetic even, but that means that I can focus all of it into my music and I can live my private life and out of it. So in reality, there is no overlap, not to a certain extent anyway.
Music is a way of life for many people. How does black metal make you feel?
How it makes me feel? Well, it makes me feel otherworldly. You know, the style in itself is not like any other style, I suppose unique in its own way. It requires an acquired taste to appreciate it, which means that if you're into it and not only you're just listening to it, but you're actually creating music in that realm, means that you, when you listen to it, you feel like on another level. Now, whether it's higher or lower, I'm not the one to talk about it, but in reality, that's how I feel like. I feel like it puts me on another level, which means because of it or despite of it, I consider black metal to be quite integral to my existence nowadays. I write other styles, radically different styles. Certainly, they will not require me to wear corpse makeup should I play them live. But in reality, music always boils down to black metal. When I'm writing my music, especially for Sahar and some other projects, they always go back to black metal. It's like you got like balls in your life, with juggling balls, and you're juggling them, and one of them is black metal, the other ones are private. In my private life, my day job, and my other responsibilities in my existence. And it's not like this one is extra, somebody threw it there, or I decided to pick another one. No, it's it's part and package of me. Marton and Sahar and black metal, they're the same.
We can imagine that opening for bands like Mayhem and Orchestra 666 was special. But for which band would you truly love to open?
Well, Mayhem is already in the equation, so there's that. But if I had to if I had to choose, it's very difficult for me to choose between three bands. The bands being Galsvird, Inquisition, or Rotting Christ. And it's hard for me to say just pick one. I cannot pick one because I'm a huge fan of those bands. They're a great inspiration to what I do. So yeah, it's either one of those three.
How was your approach to black metal? When and how did it cross your path?
Well, I was around 16 years of age back then. You know, I was listening to rock and metal for quite a time, mostly the mainstream music, the mainstream type, because most people, that's where they start from, I guess. So I guess it was new metal for me. Then I went down into the usual spiral where you start listening to Iron Maiden and Metallica, and then you start getting heavier and more extreme. At least that's what happened in my case. I actually started listening with a high frequency to death metal, whether it's brutal type or grind or slam. But then I heard Pentagram of Gorgoroth, and I was immediately sucked in, and I never looked back since then.
Tell us about any anecdote that happened to you during your music career.
Well, there are several, but I suppose I could mention when I was nominated with my music in the local music awards. That was quite something. I mean, I was nominated in two categories, one of them being metal, which is you know, metal doesn't always get nominated, let alone black metal. But the second category was the one which was most fascinating in a way because it was best album in Maltese. And I was the only metal album in Maltese. In fact, I've been the only album in Maltese for quite a long while. But when went there and you could see that my competitors are all these wishy-washy, ballady type musicians which wrote their music in Maltese, and then in the middle you find Lothar Aron just there. You know, it's surreal. It's surreal. It's a wonderful experience and a wonderful anecdote, but it was definitely surreal. But I suppose it's a good thing that such music is being appreciated, no matter the style and no matter how the person looks.
And that brings question. Are you working on new stuff? How is the sound of your work evolving?
I'm always working on new stuff. Even right now, I'm already writing music for the next release, whether it's Sahar or some other project which I have. I'm always writing new music. The sound itself has been changing from album to album, and before, like I believe I already mentioned, I had to balance guitars to accommodate a symphonic sound, but I don't do that anymore. So what I'm going for is a more articulate, but still remaining within that certain grime, which is typical of this extreme subgenre. And aside from that, I try to make it more articulate and still keeping the raw, but without the pitfalls of black metal, like they're being recorded through some toy recording equipment. I believe that the music deserves better. I believe that both my vocals, my guitars, and even the drums, they all deserve to be heard at least on a certain level. You know, they have to be audible, recognizable to some extent, even if you're pushing everything to the max and beyond. That's what I think, and other than that, I think that's the direction where my music is going.
Leave us a question for the next guest band.
Considering the current climate, and I don't mean just the COVID-19, although I suppose that doesn't help, we are in a situation where physical releases don't sell as well as they used to. It's a fact. You know, people rather stream and rather download maybe, but most of the time it's streaming. So my question is for the next band, considering this said climate, is it worth it that we pour hundreds of whatever your currency is? You know, in my case it's euros, so hundreds of euros in maybe even thousands into artworks and pressing and the logistics of it. Is that even worth it anymore? I'm not saying not producing and publishing music, that's one thing, but actually selling physical mediums and having them produced, is that really worth a musician's time nowadays? That's it?
Yes.
That's it.